Viewer discretion advised. This video discusses a real child rape murder case and Supreme Court judgment, 2025 INSC 1203. All facts from public records, not legal advice.
October 2025, Supreme Court acquits Dashwant after 8 years on death row for 7-year-old Nandini's rape and murder case. Why? Let's dissect it. We are discussing today Dashwant versus State of Tamil Nadu 2025 INSC 1203. Imagine a quiet evening in February 2017 in a simple apartment building in Mangadu near Chennai. A sun is setting and 7-year-old Nandini is playing happily with her friends in the courtyard. She has pigtails that bounce as she runs, and her laughter fills the air. Her parents, CSD Thiru and Sridevi, tell her they are going out to buy vegetables around 6 p.m. They return just an hour later, but Nandini is nowhere to be seen. Worry spreads quickly through the neighbors. They search everywhere with torches and call the police by 10 p.m. A missing child report is filed right away. Even Dashwant, a 25-year-old man who lives on the second floor and works in a call center, joins the search. He stays with the group until 4 a.m. the next morning. But Nandini remains missing, and the family is heartbroken. 3 days pass with no clues. The police check CCTV footage from a nearby temple. They see a man on a bike with a bag tied to the front. Suspicion fall on Dashwant. The police say he is hiding and arrest him on February 8th at 9 a.m. According to them, he confesses everything. He says he lured Nandini upstairs with his dog. He took her to his flat where he was alone. There he assaulted her sexually. When she cried out, he smothered her with a bedsheet. To hide the crime, he put her body in a blue travel bag. He rode his Apache bike to a lonely spot near Anakaputhar bypass road. He poured petrol from 2 soda bottles over the body and set it on fire. This story is shocking and heartbreaking for any parent. The police recover many items based on his confession. They find the blue bag with Nandini's undergarments inside. They get her earrings and anklets from his purse. They seize his jeans, t-shirt, helmet, bike, and even his mobile phone. A petrol pump owner remembers Dashwant buying fuel with a credit card. The police go to his flat in the same building and mark the bedroom as the crime spot. They make observation reports and sketches of the places. The body is half burnt when found in the bushes. A school officer identifies it from small remains. The post-mortem by Dr. Karthika Devi shows bruises on the lips and loose teeth. She says smothering is possible, but the fire makes it hard to be sure. Thigh bones and the skull goes for DNA test. Also, Dashwant's medical check happens on February 13th. The first investigation officer, N. Ravikumar, handles the case at first. Later, R.D. Vivekanandan takes over and files the charge sheet. The charges include kidnapping under Section 363 of IPC, abduction under 366, forcing a child to remove clothes under 354B, murder under 302 with death penalty, hiding evidence under 201, and POCSO Act sections for assault on a child. The trial court hears 30 witnesses, 45 documents, and 19 material objects. Dashwant denies everything. He says police picked him up on February 7th morning, kept him in illegal custody, and made him sign blank papers. He claims he is innocent and framed. However, he offers no witnesses in his defense. On February 19, 2018, the trial court finds him guilty on all counts. It gives death for murder, 10 years for some others, and 7 or 5 years for the rest. But Dashwant appeals to the Madras High Court. The Madras High Court also rejects it and confirms the death sentence on July 10, 2018. He then goes to Supreme Court with special leave petitions, criminal appeals 3633 and 3634 of 2024. On October 8, 2025, a bench of Honorable Justices Vikram Nath, Sanjay Karol, and Sandeep Mehta delivers a stunning judgment. They acquit Dashwant completely. He walks free after 8 years in jail. Shocking, isn't it? But the Supreme Court has its own reasons. This case teaches us how important fair trials are, even in the worst crimes. Now let us look at why the Supreme Court overturned the conviction. First, they checked if the trial was fair. Charges were framed on October 24, 2017, but Dashwant had no lawyer. The police documents under Section 207 of CRPC were given only on December 13, 2017. A legal aid lawyer was appointed that same day. A prosecution rushed through 30 witnesses in just 43 days, starting December 18. Conviction and death sentence came on the same day, February 19, 2018. There was no separate hearing for sentencing, no psychological test for Dashwant, no report on his jail behavior, and no balance of good and bad factors. The court says this violates fair trial rights under Article 21 and 22 of our Constitution. It ignores Supreme Court rulings like Bachan Singh in 1983, which says death is only for the rarest of rare cases after careful balancing. Other cases like Santa Singh, Alauddin Mian, Malkiyat Singh, and Dattaraya also stress proper sentencing. The National Legal Service Authority guidelines require experienced lawyers for death penalty cases. Here, the lawyer had just 4 days to prepare. The court should have asked questions under Section 165 of the Evidence Act to ensure fairness, but it did not. Now, the Supreme Court could have sent the case back to a new trial, but 8 years have passed and Dashwant has suffered in jail. So, they examine the evidence themselves and recognize that this entire case is built on only circumstances, no eyewitnesses. The law from Sharad Birdichand Sharda in 1984 says the chain of clues must be complete, proved fully, point only to guilt, leave no other explanation, and create no reasonable doubt. The first clue is last seen together. Only one witness, Murugan, says he saw Nandini playing with Dashwant and his dog on the second floor between 6 and 6:15 p.m. He claims he told the father to check upstairs, but the missing report filed at 10 p.m. says nothing about this. The search party, including Dashwant himself, looked everywhere till 4 a.m. but did not check the second floor. They say the flat was locked, yet Dashwant was helping in the search. The father had complained before about Dashwant pinching Nandini's cheeks. Why trust him then? Murugan tells this story first to the second officer on April 24, 2017, over 2 months late. The court calls it a made up story to strengthen the case. Next, the CCTV footage. The temple camera shows a bike with a bag between 6 and 7:15 p.m. The father says police told him about it on February 7th, but the temple in charge says the father came on February 6th and watched it with him. The rider's face is unclear and many bikes pass by, but the whole crime had to happen in 1 hour. Parents leave at 6 p.m., playing scene till 6:15, assault, murder, carry body downstairs, bike to petrol pump, then to remote spot and then burn. This is not possible in 75 minutes. The police never sees the actual video, a big mistake. The first officer says nothing about it in the court. The court draws a bad conclusion against the police for hiding key evidence. Then the confession and recoveries. The disclosure statement says Dashwant will show his house, clothes, and jewels. But the father's testimony breaks this. On February 7th, police say Dashwant is hiding after CCTV. A neighbor saw the bag on bike. On February 8th morning, before arrest, police tell exact the same story. Assault in flat, body in bag to bushes, burned. Arrest is at 9 a.m. Statement from 9:05 to 10 a.m. Then how did they know details already? The village officer Sumati gets a call at 8:15 a.m. for an important case. When she arrives, police say Dashwant will confess to molesting and burning a 7-year-old. This sounds pre planned. The father identifies Jewel on February 9. No identification parade has been done. The bag is not mentioned in the first observation report or sketch, likely planted. The first officer lets the full confession into evidence, which breaks Section 25 of Evidence Act. Only the part leading to discovery is allowed. The rest is illegal and harms the accused. In cross examination, the first officer admits he did not check Dashwant's office in Mylapore, an hour away. Dashwant went to work normally on February 5th, 6th, and 7th. Absolutely no hiding. No statements from other playing children. No call records from his phone. No underwear seized from him. No seals on seized items. Forensic samples go to the lab on February 22nd, but no proof of safe storage or who carried them. The Malkana in charge is not called. His blood sample is taken 4 months later on June 8th. Why wait when semen lasts only 48 hours? This risks tampering. As per Prakash Nishad's case in 2023, guidelines say send samples without delay and keep full records of who handles them. DNA proves the body is Nandini's matching parents, but semen on underwear matches Dashwant. Yet the underwear recovery is doubtful and chain of custody is broken. So it cannot be trusted. The second officer re-records statement in April. Now Murugan, an old witness, adds the last scene detail. A new witness, Pushpa, says she saw the bag on bike at 7 p.m. Why not earlier? No check on office attendance or phone records. The court says the prosecution failed to prove the chain beyond doubt. Doubts are everywhere. Even in the horrible crime against a child, we cannot convict on guesses. The law demands proof, not anger or pressure from the society. The appeals succeed. The trial court and high court judgments are set aside. Dashwant is acquitted and released free if not needed for other cases. This verdict reminds us that justice must be fair for everyone. In India, where emotions run high in child crime cases, the Supreme Court shows that rushing can wrongfully cage the innocent. 8 years lost, but truth yet to be found. What do you think? Should fair trial rules be stricter? Like and share if this adds any value. Subscribe for more simple breakdowns of big Supreme Court cases. Jai Hind.